All right, well, here we are. We are excited to have over 40 live participants in today's session about Module 4, where we're going to discuss equity concepts related to content review. And for those of you who are watching the recording, never fret. We have lots here for you as well. So as you go through this content, you're free to press pause, take notes, and participate in the discussions in Canvas and Slack. So when we think about course materials and equity, this list is not exhaustive, but represents a wide variety of equity challenges that can come up. Accessibility, again, is one that we'll hear about from our colleagues from around the system today. The idea of making sure our materials represent multiple perspectives about different topics. Those perspectives could pertain to different cultures, different ethnicities, different ages, different identities, you name it. In addition to having the materials themselves represent the perspectives of different people and identities, we also want to make sure that the people themselves are represented in the material, whether it be images that reflect the students in our classroom or the people we want to see in a particular discipline. Also, people may not consider it an equity challenge, but we know the literature supports that making sure students can find personal meaning in the content of our courses is a challenge that we need to address to support motivation, completion, and more. Access to materials, especially when they're related to different types of technology, especially internet connectivity, device ownership and use, and last but not least, cost. We know at San Francisco State, I think they did a survey just about a year ago, 79% of students claimed that they have anxiety around the costs of instructional materials. And when you see the surveys from around the country, they do reflect that students are making decisions about what materials to purchase versus being able to cover other costs related to their academic pursuits or other things in their lives. So we'll dive into some of these in a little bit more detail. And then again, I'm excited to hand over the reins of this stagecoach to our friends. So for accessibility, just a couple of quick strategies with respect to the lectures that you give and produce and sometimes record, making sure students have access to the slides or your notes or maybe any handouts in advance, especially if it's a student on a mobile device. That gives them an opportunity to print things out so they don't have to toggle between screens when they're only able to see one thing at a time. Adding alternative text for any images you use in your presentations, in your documents. Using unique titles for each lecture slide, because that's how students can jump from slide to slide, and if two slides have the same title, they won't know which one is which when they do so. And providing audio descriptions of each screen or slide as you lecture, so that students who aren't able to see what you have on your screen know what's being presented. When we talk about providing multiple perspectives, there are different ways that you can address this concept. One is putting it right in your syllabus. Many of us include diversity and inclusion statements in our syllabus, and we'll see an example or two of that in just a second. Also, making it possible or making it a requirement that students look at your course content from multiple perspectives so that they are able to think about and empathize with people from around the globe, people around the country, people around your classroom. Also, challenging students to analyze how diversity fosters learning from course materials. And we know that Google did its study about teamwork and the fact that the diversity of any given team is one of the biggest factors for that team's success. So we can let students know that we need to be thinking about diversity within the context of our course materials. I mentioned diversity and inclusion syllabus statements, And we had a great presentation a couple of days ago from William Hardaway from Fresno State, talking about making more inclusive and equity-minded syllabi. And so thinking through your syllabus and the types of statements you want to include, I've included some links here from some good centers around the country that have example statements that might become the basis of one that you adapt or adopt for yourself. When it comes to multiple perspectives on course topics, here's an example from my own class. My class is called How to Learn with Your Mobile Device. And so we talk about learning, metacognition, using technology to support learning improvement. And as part of those conversations, we talk about the growth mindset. Some of you may have heard of that, and I encourage you to put in the chat just a quick yes or no if you're familiar with the concept of growth mindset. See lots of yeses. So Mustafa, so if you are not familiar with growth mindset, it's in a simple nutshell version of the description. It's the concept that you believe that you can improve your abilities with effort over time. And a fixed mindset would mean that you feel like you have reached your capability level or your capacity. And this doesn't have to be global, it can be granular. There are some people who feel that they are strong students, but they might say things like, I just can't do math, or I'll never be good at statistics. Some people are very adept at many different skills, but they might say, I can never figure out how to fix my car. So these things, as we think through our courses and the materials that our students consume, we need to think about how we can foster a growth mindset. So you can see here 4 different perspectives about growth mindset. The original group that came up with growth mindset are Carol Dweck and her colleagues. And so I started, when I first had these conversations, only with her perspective about the mindset. She's got a TED Talk that's really good. And then later on, as I started diving into and fostering equity in my course, I started incorporating more perspectives. Luke Wood from San Diego State offers an alternative perspective that considers how students of color may not have the same starting point, where they've been told that we believe in their ability to complete the activity successfully. So encouraging us to think through these different strategies from different perspectives. Angela Duckworth talks about passion and grit as factors for success. And Anindya Kundu talks about agency for the students and socioeconomic factors that might play a role in student motivation. So you can see that the conversations that we have now in my class related to growth mindset are much richer because we're able to have these counterpoints and think through what makes the most meaning for our students. So Portland State University has a great set of questions to help us think through our course materials to determine whether or not we are providing enough, or at least countering perspectives, diverse perspectives on our content. So just a couple of these. What did I take into consideration in choosing my materials? How do my course materials reflect my current students or the students I hope to serve? How is attention to diverse perspectives distinct from diversity engagement? So these questions might be something that you use as you think through your course over the summer if you're going to do any type of redesign or just nice review. When we get to representation itself, the literature does show that students of color may see less value for learning in materials that don't represent them or include role models for them. Strategies for things like that can include using image galleries that promote diverse representation. We don't necessarily have to rely on the normal stock photo images that we can find on the web. And it's also important, and I'll bring this up again, that we discuss representation in our course materials or in our field. And so I've put together a list of galleries that you all are welcome to use, and I'll pop it in the chat here. And that basically is a list of for fee and free photo libraries that focus on diversity in different formats, whether it be people of color, whether it be people of different abilities, different body sizes and shapes, whatever the case may be. There's a great set of image galleries there, and I encourage you to let me know if I missed any that you like to use. Again, having those discussions about representation are important, especially if we're in fields where we're trying to promote and encourage more diversity in our discipline. I have a colleague who teaches a sociology course. She loves the textbook, but does not like the fact that it does not reflect the diverse students that she serves in Oakland, California. So she makes it a conversation with her students. And one year she actually created an assignment as a bonus where students could write a letter to the publisher and let them know why they felt it was important to be able to see themselves in the course materials. And you can also create something in the middle where you ask students to, hey, this textbook, this publisher created material, this thing on the web is not as diverse as we'd like to see. So let's find images that we feel should be included that more accurately and adequately represents them in the discipline. I also discussed the content meaning and helping students make connections between the content and their personal lived experience. And so these questions can be for us to give to our students as reflections on the course material. Earlier, I talked about prompts. You might have some prompts that you want students to use in order to understand the material better. And you might also include one of these types of prompts to help students understand the materials in the context of their own lives. What does this content relate to or remind me of in my life? How is this content similar or different from things I've read or watched or seen before? Those types of questions are powerful and help students think through how the content relates to them. Another way to increase the meaning of the content for our students is to find complementary materials or media. Merlot.org is a great site which has a lot of materials shared by instructors and instructional designers from around the world, international community. And some examples that I've pulled, if you're talking to your students about an emigration experience, moving from one country to another, maybe not by choice. Bury Me, My Love is a game that talks about a person as she leaves Syria to find a better life in Europe and walks through that experience in a way that helps students understand better and can have better discussions. Another item that's shared is the slavery footprint, a simulation that helps you determine how many slaves may have worked to produce goods or services that you use and how you can take action to reduce that footprint. So these complementary materials, again, can put a greater emphasis, equity focus on the content of our courses. And then when we think about the costs and other aspects of our course materials that might prevent students from using our materials, then we just have to basically address assumptions or manage them. So if we know students may not be able to buy our course materials, what other options exist for them? Making sure they know what options are available. Do they have regular access to the internet for those course materials? For example, again, that professor in Kansas State University creates simple download packets for those students who have to drive to Starbucks or McDonald's to use a reliable Wi-Fi source. They can download what they need and then go away quickly and work offline so that they don't have to be connected to the internet for long periods of time. So some of these strategies that we think through with respect to our course content can increase the equity for our students, especially in flexible courses where they're participating in multiple ways. So here are the different references, but now, as I mentioned, I'm excited to pull in some perspectives, as we just talked about, from people throughout the system.